Can you see okay? I thought maybe
Yes.
I'd move just a little bit. What's wrong? Oh, okay. I don't know if that fixed it. It's okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing well. So what we're going to be doing is looking at how to study the Bible with a computer. I know for years I was using the Strong's Concordance in the books and Brown Driver's Briggs, if you're familiar with that, to help locate words, and then also the Thayer's and Gesenius dictionaries. So when I got a computer, it was a game changer for me because, for example, I did a search for 1,000 years, and I used the Strong's Concordance. And if you look up the word 1,000 on the Strong's Concordance, it's in fine print, and it lists all the places in the Bible where the word 1,000 is used. And then if you look up the word years, you find both of those are several pages long, or columns at least. It's a lot of verses that you have to go through. And I was only looking for the places where it said 1,000 and years together, next to each other. And it took a long time, like I would say hours, to look at each of the verses to see where it said 1,000 years. Well, now I just did it while I was talking to you, and you can search for 1,000 years, and there's all the places it's used. And it's just that quick, just like that. And the way I did that was to search. I don't know if you can see. First of all, this is an online Bible. It's a program you can get for free. You can download it on the internet. Just go to onlinebible.net. That is the website. They have other websites connected to it, but that's the one that I always go to download the program. And you can also buy a DVD so you can put it in your computer that way as well. They'll send it to you in the mail. Pretty reasonable. I think it's $35, or it used to be anyway. But you can also download it for free. The downside is when you download it for free, it takes a long time to get all of the resources, because you have to put them in one by one into your program, and there might be 1,000 of them. So it takes a while. So that's why the CD is actually a pretty good option to order. But you can do everything I'm doing right here with just the free quick version you download off the internet. So what I did is I searched for the term 1,000 years. There's a little search flashlight thing here where you search, and then you can type in whatever you want. And by default, it goes to a phrase search over here. That's the way it is normally. It'll be a phrase search. So like if I did 1,000 years, it's going to only find the places where 1,000 years are touching each other in that order, 1,000 years. And that's what I generally want. So I do the phrase search, and here's all the places in the Bible that it's found. It tells you at the top right here how many there are. There's 9 of them. Total of 9. That's what that little number there is, which you guys probably can't see very well, but it's there. So there's 9 verses that have the term 1,000 years. But if you look at all those places, you notice as far as the millennium goes, you'll only find them in Revelation. There's 3 outside of Revelation, and then there's 6 in Revelation chapter 20. And that's the ones in Revelation 20 are the only ones that actually refer to the millennium. The other ones are talking about other things. But anyway, that's not what we're necessarily looking into today. But the 2 main things that I use all the time is search. If I'm going to search for a phrase, or if I wanted to do 1,000 years again, but in this case, I want to do a word search, I can just click on that over here, and then it'll do a word search, and that'll find every time the word 1,000 and years are found in the same verse, regardless of what order they're in and whether they're touching each other. It's not a phrase search. So in this case, I'm going to find quite a few. There's only 12 of them, but anyway, so the search button is the one that I use the most next to the Bible button, which is this red one here. This one allows you a verse that you want to go to. So if I'm trying to follow along in a sermon or something, and they say turn to Nahum 1:9. That's a hard book to find, kind of. But here I do NAH. See, what happened is when you push this button, it automatically is ready for you to start typing. Now it's highlighted what was there last, but it's because it's highlighted, if you start typing, it will replace that. So I'm going to do NAH for Nahum, and then space 1:9, and then push enter, and it puts Nahum 1:9 up here. It's in the front right corner. The way I have these set up, it's a particular, I have them tiled classic, the classic way. There's different ways of doing it. Some you might like better than others. I like the tile classic. What that does is the Bible verse that you're looking at to read, this will allow you on the top right corner to go from Genesis to Revelation continuously. If I just keep pushing the right arrow key, it'll continually go through the whole Bible from book to book and chapter to chapter. That's what this one will do on the top right corner. If I want it bigger, you can double click on this bar right here at the top, and it will fill the screen. And then if you ever want to go back to the small version, you just double click it again, and it goes back to where it was. And you can do that on any of the windows. So if the search window, you want that one big, you just double click on that bar at the top, and then double click it again, and it'll go back down. Now, what may happen is you might close one of these windows by pushing this X by accident. Okay, now I just got rid of that window, and I want it back. All you have to do is do another search. You can do all this with a mouse, but a lot of these things you can do with the keyboard. So what I do, if you highlight on there, you'll notice there's a little window that pops up. All I didn't click anything. I just put my mouse over it, and it tells you F7. Do you see that? It's covered up with my mouse, but see the F7 there? So instead of pushing that button, I can actually just push my keyboard F7, and that comes up. Then I don't have to find it using my mouse. So that's what I use most, is my keyboard. Go ahead.
Are we allowed questions?
Absolutely. There's a microphone over there, though.
Okay, you're using the latest online Bible version, correct?
Good question. No, I'm not. I'm using an old one. This is 5.10 is the version that I'm using. Sometimes it's hard to upgrade to the latest version. Sometimes something goes wrong. It doesn't work. Okay, so to play it safe, I generally stick with one I like and just keep it for a long time.
Okay, so I'm on an old one. I don't know if it's the same one, but every time I hit phrase search.
You might need to go a little closer.
Okay, every time I hit phrase search.
Okay. Oops. Phrase search.
And I type in 2 words, it comes up the way your second search was, where they're all separated. What am I doing wrong?
Okay, so good question. On mine, particularly, it defaults to the phrase search. Every time I search, it goes to the phrase search, and it's underscored with a P. The P is underscored. You see that little line under the P?
Yes.
What that means is if you want to select that item, you can push alternate on your keyboard and then the letter P, and it will select that. Now, if I want to do the word search, which is over here, it's alternate W, because the W is underlined, see? So I can switch between them just by pushing the alternate W or P.
But they're both underlined.
They're both underlined, but one is a W and one is a P. So if I push alternate W, it will switch to the word search, but if I push alternate P, it'll switch to the phrase search. So in your case, I don't know why it defaults to come up to the word search, but you can, what I do, every time I want to do a word search instead of a phrase search, when I come up, mine's always on the phrase search, so I just push alternate W and it switches it to a word search. So for you, you would put alternate P and it will switch it to the phrase search for you. Does that make sense?
Really interesting, yes.
Yeah. That's if you want to use the keyboard, which I like the keyboard the best. That's actually one reason I don't like the eSword, is because you have to use your mouse for everything.
That's been very frustrating for me, so thank you very much.
Oh, okay. I'm glad that answered your question. So, anyway, the two things I use all the time is the search, which is right there, or just pushing F7 brings it up. And then the other one I use is the verse, which is the red Bible. And when I bring those up, you can use your mouse and click on whatever verse you want to go to the chapter, and then go to the verse. You can do it that way with the mouse, but I don't like doing that. It's just slow, so I just go Genesis 1:3, and it's going to go Genesis 1:3 when I push GEN space 1:3 and push enter, and it will go there.
Okay, another problem I have is every time I open another Bible verse, it opens another window.
Okay, so that is because you're not on the Windows Classic, the Tile Classic. If I switch this to default, now this is the way it looks, but I don't like it. I like the Classic, so this is the one I always use, and it will only bring up one window at a time. Those 4 windows, that's all you'll get. You'll never get 5 windows or 6 or 10. And I know if you get so many windows, it becomes tedious.
Yeah, I usually have 6 windows open, but whenever I open another Bible verse, it opens another window. So I have to X another one out.
I see.
So how do I make it come up in the same window?
I don't know. I only use the Tile Classic. That's all I've ever used.
I think.
So, but that only gives you 4 windows. If you're not comfortable with 4 windows, you can actually open another program and you can have 8 windows if you have 2 Bible programs going at the same time, if you wanted to do that. But anyway, you're right that you can have more if you do different. You can do Cascade. Now they're like that. Anyway, I just like the Classic because that's what I'm used to. All right. So as far as the tools of what you can do with the program, one thing, it lets you go to Bible verses really quick. If you like using your fingers and you know your keyboard pretty good, then you can just push F2, which is the same. That's what this is here. You'll see there's an F2 there hidden under there. See, there's the F2. So that's how you know all your shortcuts, is just by highlighting over it, and you can find out what the shortcuts are. Now, here's another thing that's really nice. If you right-click on this, you get a context-sensitive list. When I say context-sensitive, it means you get a different list if you're somewhere else. So, like if I'm over here, I'm going to get a different list. If I'm here, I'm going to get a certain list, and then same with down here. You always get a different list depending on where you're right-clicking. But look at this. When you right-click on any of these windows, you'll notice a bunch of different choices there. You see these numbers or letters at the edge? Those are the shortcut keys. So like this H and N are the ones I use all the time. And that's copy to clipboard and append to clipboard. So like if I want to start a Bible study, get a Bible study going, and here, I'll just get rid of that. So I want Genesis. Well, we'll do the one on the 1,000 years. And if you don't want to type it in again, you can just push the up arrow key, and it'll go back to what you used before. It'll have several memorized. So I just pushed the up arrow key twice and went back to 1,000 years, and then push enter. And that brings that 1,000 years up again. Now, looking through these, I only want the ones in Revelation 20. So I'm going to push the H here, which the same thing would be copy to clipboard is H. See, that's the shortcut. So I use this key function a lot. I just push H. And now what happened is that copied it to an invisible clipboard, if you understand what that is. And then if I paste it, it's going to put that verse in my program. But now, suppose I don't want to just have one verse. I want to have several verses. I can copy it, H. What H does is it'll replace whatever's on your keyboard with the new thing you just put on there. Wherever your cursor is where it's going to take that verse. Now, I'm going to push my right arrow key to go to the next verse. See, now I'm on verse 3, but I want that on my clipboard also. If I pushed H, it's going to replace verse 2. but I want to add it to verse 2. I want to have verse 3 as well. Now I can push N. And again, the way you find that is just go down here and you can see there's an N for appending to clipboard. When you append, it means you add to. So I added, I'm going to go back to this and push H. So I copy that verse. I'm going to add this N. I'm going to add this one as well, and this one, and this one, and even that one. So I just pushed N each of those times, and now look what happens. I'll separate it from that. Now all of the verses that I just put there got copied. And they're still on the keyboard until I push H again somewhere else, and it will replace it. So the way you know whether you want to use H or N is right here is the shortcuts. There's a bunch of other shortcuts too, like X. That's a shortcut I use a fair amount as well. That shows the cross references. So you know, like in your Bible right there, if you notice in the middle of the margin, there's Bible verses listed, and you have to follow the little letters to see where it goes. But some of those verses have links to other verses that talk about the same thing. And so that's what this does. So like in verse 6, we'll just use that one here, or no, 5. I'm going to do X, and what that does is open up all the cross-references for that one verse. Now, in the Bible program, you have a bigger list. So this is all just for verse 5. These are all the cross-references for verse 5. You can't fit all those in a Bible, a printed Bible. If you did it for every verse this way, you'd have a margin bigger than your text. So anyway, that's what the X is for, is to view the cross-references. Now, suppose I'm looking at the cross-references and I see a verse I want to get some more information on, and I want to look at the context. We'll go to this Romans 11:15. I want to do the context. I can just push C, or of course there's a C right here. So if you forget these shortcuts, just go back and right-click on stuff and look at everything, investigate. So I want to do the context of Romans 11:15. I'm just going to push a C, and now it comes up on the right side. I may want it full screen. I already showed you how to do that. Now, this little thing right here, this little box square, does the same thing. It'll make it big, or you can go back and hit it again and make it small. I just like double clicking on the bars to do it because I can reach that quicker. But anyway, so that I was using the context and the cross references, so you saw that. Now, if you want to find out what reconciling is, right here, this word reconciling, you can push the S, and that'll turn on the Strong's numbers. You can see there's an S here. There's also an F for footnotes, so you might want to do footnotes. You know, like in your Bible right now, you probably have places where it says footnote, has little commentaries or footnotes. So I can put that on as well. So just pushing F did it. Now I've got the footnotes on. And the footnotes will look different than, like there's one. See, that's a footnote. See, if I push F, it'll go away. Now it's not there anymore. Because I just turned on and off the footnotes. And on off the Strong's numbers is S. So off and on. That's another thing I really like about Online Bible as opposed to eSword. On eSword, you have to switch it to a different translation to get the Strong's numbers. It's kind of tedious. But on this one, you just push S. This one also has something that eSword doesn't have, and that is the tense voice mood numbers. It's called tense voice mood numbers. That's for all verbs. So it tells you what tense they're in, what voice and mood, which I don't even understand all of those things, but I know the numbers are handy. Watch this. So this is found in Proverbs 8. I'm about to show you something you can't do in eSword because they don't have the tense voice mood numbers. So anyway, look at here. It says, when there were no depths, I'm just put without the Strongs. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no fountains abounding with water, before the mountains were settled, before the hills, was I brought forth. Now, brought forth is a verb, and you'll notice here's the Strong's number. See, they have the strong, whatever these things are called, beside them. What are they called? Alligators? Okay. I didn't know that. But anyway, they have those alligators on the before and after. That is a Strong's number. And if you don't know what a Strong's number is, it's really important to understand that. It's fairly basic for studying the Strong's numbers. What happened is there's a man by the name of James Strong. Is that his name?
Yes.
He took all of the words in the Bible and put them in alphabetical order. So he did this for the New Testament, which is Greek, and he also did it for the Old Testament, which is Hebrew. And he put all those words in order, all the words that are used in the Bible in order, and then he put a number beside each one. And what that did is really a game changer for people who don't know Greek and Hebrew, is it allows you to dig deep and find out what a word means beyond just the English. So you're not limited to just English. You can search Hebrew and Greek without even knowing how to speak or read them. That's what the Strong's numbers did. And so the Strong's number for brought forth, that Strong's numbers represents a Hebrew word that was translated in this verse. It was originally written in Hebrew, but then this word was translated brought forth in this verse. Now, I just double clicked on the Strong's number. So here's the number, and here's the way it looks in Greek, and this is a transliteration of it. Cool. And then here, this gives you AV stands for authorized version, or King James. King James is the authorized version. That's what that stands for. And then this is just telling you how the word is used in the Bible, in the King James Bible. It's used a total of 62 times. That's what that number at the end means. It's used 62 times. Of those 62 times, 6 times it was translated pain. 5 times it was translated formed. 4 times bring forth. Now, this dictionary also, if you look at it, it says the first definition is to twist, whirl, dance, writhe, fear, tremble, travail, be in anguish, be pained. And then it breaks it down to different forms. Now, this is qual. This is some Hebrew word I don't quite understand, but it's just a type of verbs. They have different types. Like in Spanish, there's words about verbs that I don't understand. But so in Hebrew, there's these words, qual, then there's polal, and then there's pulal. These different forms are not on every verb, doesn't have these different forms, but a lot of them have them. I mean, all of them, I'm saying. Not all of them have every single one of them. But, so when it's in the qual form, then it means to dance, to twist, to writhe, to whirl about. Well, how do you know whether it's the qual form or not in this verse? That's what these numbers are for here. You see, these numbers are in parentheses. They're not in the alligators. They're in parentheses. So when you click on one of these numbers in parentheses, now it tells you what it is, what form it is. It's pulal. And it also tells you it's in the perfect form. Now, if you want to know more about what those numbers, what that means, pulal, you can double click on the number and it will explain what pulal means. If you want to know that, I don't usually need that information, so I don't. And what I did just now is I pushed escape to go backwards, because I was just in this window and I want to go back to where I was a second ago. So I pushed escape to get back. And that always works. You can even push it multiple times to go further back. So anyway, so now we know it's in the pulal form. Now when we look at this dictionary definition, we can skip everything but pulal, because we're only interested in what it means in the verse that we're studying at the moment. So in this case, we're studying Proverbs 8, and it's in the pulal form there. So it means to be made to writhe, to be made to bear, to be brought forth. Now watch this. This is a neat thing you can do here too, is if you highlight a word like this, see now it's highlighted. If I push the search thing, or I push F7, then it's going to automatically put that search number because I had it highlighted, it's going to put it up in the search request box. So now if I push enter, it's going to find all of the places where that word cool is used. I didn't look for it in the pull-out form. I just looked for it in general. And this is all the places it's used. Anyway, you can see the definition of the word is very, very different, because what I understand is English has a lot of words. I think more words than any other language, not mistaken, because we're kind of a conglomeration of a whole bunch of languages together. So in Hebrew, they didn't have as many words as we do, so they reused words for other things. And that's why you have such one word, but you have a various definitions of it. See, it means even to fear, to be afraid. So back in Proverbs 8, would it make sense to say, before the mountains was I afraid? That wouldn't make sense, and it wouldn't even fit, because that's not the form of the verb that was used in that verse. So I did a search for that. Now watch what you can do if you do both of the numbers. So now I'm going to search for both numbers. I'll do F7. It's going to put them up in the search box. Push enter, and now it's finding every place where that word, the Hebrew word cool, is used, but in the specific Pulal perfect form, with that Pulal, or the tense voice mood number at the end. See? So now it's searching for only that. Now I did do a phrase search for this, just so you know. I did a phrase search, because if I didn't do a phrase search, it would find that tense voice mood number in other places of the verse. But I don't want those. I only want the ones that relate to this word. So that's why I did a phrase search, not a word search. See, if I did a word search, this is what would happen. And I just push the up arrow to get it back. I push alternate W to get the word search, push enter. It gave me the same thing. So we got lucky this time. But sometimes it would give you a bunch of different things. Yes, go ahead.
On the second number, after that one,
Yeah.
when it comes up, the perfect, can you tell us more about that? Because how many different forms are there?
Well, it's kind of like in English, past, present, and future, but they have different ones even in Hebrew, but I don't think there's very many, maybe 4 or 5. But it tells you about it. And the way I got here was I just clicked on the number after perfect, and now it tells you it's going to describe the perfect. So it says the perfect expresses a completed action. In reference to time, such an action may be one just completed. Anyway, so it's a pretty very detailed definition of the word. Does that help? Okay. I know for some of you this is brand new and you don't even know what we're talking about. I'm sorry about that. What I should do is help you with something. Yes?
So for those of us that are brand new and we download this program comes with a tutorial that'll help us go through everything you're showing us?
There are helps. You can go through helps that help give you explanation. I don't. Oh, of course, yeah, tutorial. So let's see what that does. Here's a tutorial. So, quick start. Didn't work. There it is. So that tells you how to install it. That's a good question. Install it to the hard drive. Displaying a Bible passage. You can go File, Open Passage. I didn't even know that. I just learned something. Or you can do Control F1. Now, by default, the View Bible verse is in the F1 position. See, if you notice on the screen, all of these buttons up here correspond to your F buttons on your keyboard. If you notice above your numbers, so above your keyboard is going to be a row of numbers, and above that is a row of F numbers or function numbers, F1 through 12. And so this one is F1, but you have to push Control F1 because F1 by default on most programs is help. So if you push F1, it just brings up help. So there's help. You can do that, F1. But if you want to get that first button, you have to push Control F1 because it needs to know that you're looking for the button rather than for the help. And then the next one doesn't have the control in front of it because F1's not automatically assigned to something. I mean, F2 is not automatically assigned to something. So F2, by default, when you open the program, when you install the program, this F1 and F2 that I have on my screen are reversed. I switched it to F2 because I didn't want to push Control all the time. I just wanted to push F2 and I wanted it to go to the Bible verse. So that's why I moved it. There's a way to customize that. In my program, I push F2 and the verse comes up. And when you first install it, you have to push Control 1 to get that to happen.
Okay.
I just don't like the control button, so.
And Lynford, I think other people had questions.
Yes, okay. Does that answer your question?
It did.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Okay.
Whoever has a question. Okay. Sorry, yeah, it's supposed to be interactive.
Well, there's a lot of people that are new, and how many people do not have this program? I mean,
I have a question. I downloaded it to my phone and it doesn't have, does it come with King James Version? Because I didn't see it on there.
The King James is the main default one that always, well, should always be there.
Okay.
And it's called AV though.
Oh, okay. That's what I saw. I saw AV. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. That, because I went to the store even on it and I couldn't see the King James and I was like, okay.
Now I have downloaded the online Bible to my phone. To be honest, I don't like it very much. It's just clunky. And I already got used to other programs. So what I use for the phone, which does almost everything this does, I'm more comfortable here with the keyboard and a mouse or whatever. So I like to do more deeper study using this program on my computer. But if I'm out and about and I need to use the phone to do a Bible study, I use the program called And Bible. It's AND and then Bible. Now that's for an Android phone, so I'm not completely sure if it's available on an iPhone, but it's And Bible. The reason I like And Bible, well, one reason anyway, is you can download the Bible onto your phone and you don't need the internet to access it, which I think is silly to have to need the internet all the time.
So is there a version for the iOS?
I'm
the iPhone?
I do not know what is available. I'm sure there's more options for the iPhone, so you should be able to find, if not that one, you should find one similar. What I like is to be able to dig deeper. So I like to access the Septuagint, which is Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Old Testament. So in this particular verse, for example, I can call up put the Septuagint up there, and it's, the one that I'm looking for is LXXA. The reason I like this one is it has the Strong's numbers in it. So this is the Septuagint with the Strong's numbers. And we can find the word that was translated brought forth in this verse. Actually, we'll do the one in verse 25. So it's the last word. And this is the word right here. This is the word that when the Hebrews wanted the Bible, the Old Testament Hebrew Bible, when they wanted it available in Greek, they translated it into Greek, and it's called the Septuagint. And when they came to this word in this verse, and they saw, before the hills was I brought forth, in Hebrew, they translated it into Greek, and they used this word, gena, which is 1080. So this is the word that is in the Septuagint, and look what word it is. Look what word, this is the same one that says Abraham begat Isaac, Isaac begat Jacob, Jacob begat Esau. That's the word that the Hebrews used to translate the Hebrew word cool in this verse, because that's what it means, born. Before the hills, I was born or given birth. And we see that with the Septuagint. That's another way of looking at it. Now, you can find it. You can find information here with like brought forth. I was showing you that earlier. If you do a search for the cool word in the Pulal form, here's all of the places it's used. And if you'll notice, every time the context brings out, it's talking about being born. So in Proverbs 8, when it says, before the hills was I brought forth, in the King James it says that. In here I'm pushing R now. R changes the translation. It cycles through all your translations. So you can just go R a whole bunch of times. Now look at this. This is the Bible in Basic English. Before the hills was my birth. So they just come right out and say it. The NIV says pretty much the same thing. I think it just says born in the NIV. But anyway, if you push R, because it's listed right here, it rotates carousel. What that does is it rotates between all of these Bible versions that I have displayed up here. See all the Bible versions? Those are only the ones that I have listed. There's more than that available. If you push this button here, which is F9, you can get, see, only the ones checked are the ones that are going to appear here. But all these other ones that are not checked are not even on the list.
Okay. Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
No such thing as a dumb question, but why would we want to scroll through? Why would we want to scroll through all the different versions of the Bible?
Okay, good question. Generally, just to get another option of how at least somebody understood those verses or that phrase. So like, for example, I don't know Hebrew and Greek. I can't just read it and tell you what it says, what it means. So all of these other translations, whoever translated it, they did have that ability. And so you can get input from somebody else who knows the phrases, and this is the way they translated it. Now, it doesn't mean that they're right, or maybe they're putting bias in there, but at least you can have another option, another way of looking at it.
Are there translations that we should steer away from?
Absolutely. So that's a good question. Look at Romans chapter 8, verse 1. I'll just show you something here. I pushed 9 just now because I wanted to only get the King James. I had the Septuagint in there as well. And when I push 9, it just goes back to only the King James because that's my default translation. But anyway, I'm going to put, my eyes aren't clear enough. I can see this on the screen a lot better. So I can have I'm going to put the Textus Receptus. The Textus Receptus is also the received text. It's the Protestant Bible, Protestant Greek. Now this only applies to the Greek New Testament. Oops, what happened there? Okay, this is what I wanted. So now I'm going to also put the Westcott and Hort. I have so many that, okay, so now I have the Textus Receptus and the Westcott and Hort text. They're both Greek manuscripts, but the Westcott and Hort text comes from the two Catholic manuscripts called the Vaticanus. Can you guess where that came from? It was found in the Vatican Library. And then the other one is called the Sinaiticus. That was found in a Hebrew monastery. I think it was a monastery or anyway, it was somewhere. They both are very Catholic sources, those two manuscripts. Well, a lot of the new translations come from those two Hebrew manuscripts. Sorry, Greek manuscripts. That's for the New Testament, just so you know, the Textus Receptus or Westcott and Hort, that only applies to the New Testament. The Hebrew still all comes from the same, pretty much, version. Did you want to say anything more on that? Okay, so anyway, that's a really good question, though. Is a lot of the new translations are not trustworthy because they come from a corrupt manuscript. The New Testament specifically comes from the Vaticanus and Sinaiticus, which I do not believe are reliable. Now, the NIV says they're the two oldest and most reliable. I would say, no, they're the least reliable. But anyway, here are the two, there's a display of the two manuscripts. If you notice this verse, Romans 8:1, half of it is missing in the Westcott and Hort. Can you see half of the verse missing? See, it's equal all the way up to here, but then that whole portion is missing. Now, this is true in a bunch of other verses. I have a little pamphlet called 200 Omissions. There's a bunch of other places where the Westcott and Hort differs from the Textus Receptus. But this is an easy one to check. It's Romans 8, verse 1. If half of the verse is missing, then steer away from that Bible. Another,
Take that one off the program.
yeah. Well, look at this one too. Another one is Revelation. Well, I have to have them on here so I can demonstrate things like this. Revelation 22:14 is another one. Look at this one. This is, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates into the city. But look what the Bible in basic, blessing on those whose robes are washed. So one is washing robes, the other is keeping the commandments. And so this is another good verse test, a translation. If it says wash the robes, you know faulty translation. It's following the two corrupt Catholic manuscripts. So I would steer clear from that one. So that's the Bible in basic English in this case. Now the reality is both of those are good translations, but from bad. One's from a good manuscript, one's from a bad manuscript. They translated it correctly, but it started from the wrong place if you're going to use the bad manuscripts. Okay, go ahead.
Can I back you up a little bit, Lynford?
Sure, go ahead. I know we're over time, so I apologize.
Oh, okay.
For that.
2 questions. Back up to what was the name for Android phones? The name of the program?
Bible is the one I use. A&D.
A&D Bible for Androids. Okay, and
Yep.
Septuagint, my second question is, can you explain a little more what exactly is the Septuagint? Where did it come from?
Okay, back around 200 BC, it's 200 and something, I don't know the exact date, but the Greek language became widespread. It was kind of like English is today. English is the language. If you live in another country and you want to progress in business or whatever, you're going to want to learn English. That's just the way it is, because English is a widespread language. And also, like airplane terminals, airplane traffic control, they always go in English, no matter where you are in the world. So if you don't want to be a pilot and not know English, because you could get stuck somewhere. So anyway, that's the way Greek was back. Started to be 200 years BC. It's because Alexander the Great, he overthrew all over, and he Hellenized. That's what it's called when they they bring in Greek culture and language into a area. That's called Hellenizing, and that happened a lot throughout the Middle East and areas. So Greek became a very popular language, and if you wanted to communicate with more people, you learned Greek because a lot of people knew it. Anyway, there were Hebrews that didn't know Hebrew. There were Jews that didn't know Hebrew because they were raised in an area where Greek was the language. Just like today, there are Spanish people that are born and raised here that don't know Spanish, right?
Okay. Yep.
Right. The same happened with Hebrew. Hebrew became less of a language in certain areas anyway, and Greek was more common. So if the only Bible available was in Hebrew and maybe 20% of the Jewish population doesn't know Hebrew, then there's a problem. They need to have a Bible in their own language. So that's why they translated it into Greek about 200 BC. And in fact, from what we understand from the New Testament, the Septuagint, the Greek Old Testament, was the Bible that was used mostly by the disciples.
It was all Greek?
Greek.
The Old Testament, they were reading in Greek.
They were reading in Greek, and then when they were writing letters, like if you read through the New Testament, and they quoted the Old Testament, if and there are some examples where the Old Testament Greek differs from the Old Testament Hebrew, they would go with the Greek version over the Hebrew version. That happened on a number of occasions. You can check that out. But that's what the Septuagint is, and it's called Septuagint because sept is 70. And there were 70 Hebrew scholars that translated it from Hebrew into Greek. We are 5 minutes past our time, so I apologize. well, I don't know what you guys want to do. We can wrap up, maybe do, I don't know. Is there any pertinent questions? Yes.
Can you do one offline?
Yes. Yes. Now, the name is deceiving. They had this online Bible back when I was using Windows 3.1. I don't know if you're familiar with Windows 3.1. That's before Windows XP, that was back in the 90s. And it was called Online Bible before there was an internet. Or at least, I should say there was an internet, but it wasn't widely known. I didn't have an email address or any internet back when I was using this in 1994. But it was still called Online Bible, even though you don't have to use the internet at all to use it. Okay. All right. Well, God bless. We'll close in prayer, I'm sure, but I guess we'll turn it over to Michael, if you want to say anything, or
you can close this in prayer.
All right. Well, let's pray. Our dear Father in heaven, we come before you and we thank you so much for your love and kindness. Thank you for the Bible. We wouldn't have any of this if it wasn't for you preserving your word as you promised. So thank you for that. Thank you that we have the tools to really dig deep and learn much about what you're really intending for us to understand. And we ask for a blessing on each of us for wanting to use some of this software to study the Bible more. I pray you give us wisdom and understanding and make it click with us so we can comprehend. In Jesus' name we pray and thank you. Amen.
Thank you, Lynford, for that tutorial.